Okay, thanks everyone for braving the elements to attend our Prescott City Council voting session. Today is Tuesday, August 23rd. We'll start off with any announcements or
Yes, I'll
introductions.
be happy to
Mayor
make
Pro
a
Tem.
few announcements. I am pleased to announce that we have a new council member, Connie Contalme. Connie has been a resident of and very active in Prescott for 16 years. She is a wonderful asset to the community, and she is eager to serve as our new teammate. Connie will be sworn in September 13th here in the chambers at 9:45. And a big thank you to all the applicants for stepping up and participating. Next, the City of Prescott P&Z Commission will hold a public hearing to discuss the proposed airport vicinity overlay district on Thursday, that's the day after tomorrow, August 25th at 9 a.m. here in council chambers. The airport is a major economic driver for our community and provides the only commercial air service in Yavapai County. It is also critical to ERAU Embry-Riddle for training our future pilots and a base for our forest firefighting slurry bombers. As the airport and community grows, it is critical that noise, encroachment, and public safety issues be addressed now so that the success of the airport and the surrounding neighborhoods can be protected. So we hope to see you Thursday. Thank you.
And Councilman Tenney, I think you had an announcement.
May I just really briefly, I'll try to be very brief. So I work for the school district, and we recruit teachers, and even with the kind of general teacher crisis in America and Arizona, we've been very lucky to get people who are excited to come here to Prescott. We've got an excellent reputation statewide. Our test scores are good, our enrollment's up third year in a row, et cetera, and we've had a number of teachers join us this year. We had one young couple, gentleman who's working at one of our schools, and his wife and their young daughter, who came to town, had a temporary housing arrangement that was working for them as they looked for housing in town. Housing in town is crazy. I don't need to tell you that. That's not an announcement. That's reality for all of us. And they looked at apartments. They just couldn't afford anything. I gave them 2, 3, 4 different references to go with, and we had some people in the room help me out with that, and they just couldn't find anything. Well, on Sunday evening, I believe, Councilwoman Rusing got with me by text and said, I've got an apartment to rent at a price that, frankly, is well below market value, and I'd love to rent it to a teacher if there's anybody. And I thought, oh my gosh, you are my hero. So I got with this gentleman right away. The two of them got together, and she didn't even know that they had spent part of the previous week in a hotel with money that his colleagues had gathered together to help him out temporarily and whatnot. It was just a terrible situation. We were about to lose this teacher, but Kathy stepped up and even gave a greater discount without knowing the background here. It just helped somebody out in the community because she's a good lady, and I just wanted to share that with people, and thank you, Kathy.
It's my honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Very good. And we'll now have an invocation from Dennis Baker from the Mount Vernon Church of Christ, followed by a Pledge of Allegiance from Councilman Moore.
Good afternoon. Would you pray with me? Father in heaven, we are humbled and grateful to call you our Father, to offer you praise, and to dedicate our time and our lives to your service and to the service of this community. We know there is much to do. We know there are lots of things to consider. And Father, I pray as this council does its work that there will be wisdom and knowledge and guidance, that they will look to you for guidance, that they will have wise people around them who will also offer them guidance. We praise you for the good gifts that each one of these individuals have, the gifts of leadership, the gifts of knowledge and wisdom and management and oversight, and just pray that they can be healthy, pray that they'll be able to do their jobs with focus, and that things that might otherwise distract them will be a minimum. We pray that they will use those gifts with diligence and with integrity. We want to individually pray for Phil Good, for Kathy Rusing, for Brandon Montoya, for Eric Moore, for Steve Shishka, for Clark Tinney, for Michael Lamar and Joseph Young, and the people that support them in their work. We pray that their families would be protected and would be strong and be supportive of the extra effort that they go to for us as citizens of this community. We pray they will have peace in their lives, that they may focus on their responsibilities. And Father, we especially ask that they would do their jobs well. May they have the strength and the foresight to do that as they lead our community well, and may their leadership be effective. We offer this prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, we'll have roll call, please.
Mayor Good.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Rusing.
Here.
Councilman Montoya.
Here.
Councilman Moore.
Here.
Councilman Sishka. I know you're there.
Here.
There you go.
And Councilman Tenney.
Here.
All are present.
Very good. Now we'll have a presentation regarding the recognition monument for Frank Shankwitz, the founder of Make-A-Wish Foundation.
Good afternoon, Mayor, council members, and city staff. My name is Joe Bagley. I'm a resident of Prescott, Arizona, and I live a couple blocks from here. I want to say a special thank you to Councilmember Moore and Montoya for allowing me to speak, to talk what I'm thinking. Frank's wife, Kitty Shankwitz, was unable to attend this meeting due to a prior commitment. She asked me to thank you all for this opportunity to speak and that she is 100% behind this project. In 5 minutes, I will try to cover the who, what, when, where, why, and how. Not necessarily in that order, and how I'm approaching this project. What? This is an idea I've had for over a year now, asking for support and cooperation in a joint effort between the city, the council, and the community to properly honor one of Prescott's finest. Mr. Frank Shankwitz, creator and co-founder of Make-A-Wish Foundation, one of the greatest nonprofits in the world. I would like to have a monument commemorating Frank Shankwitz and his great achievements. Why? To let our citizens, visitors, and the world to know about Frank Shankwitz, a Prescott resident, and the great accomplishment he has achieved. As of today, Make-A-Wish is in 50 countries and territories on 5 continents, serving over 500,000 wish kids. Frank had stickability. He didn't give up. That was one of Frank's favorite words. Who? Frank had a very rough life growing up and overcame many obstacles. He attended Prescott High School in the 60s and played football there. After high school, he enlisted in the United States Air Force. Soon after, he became part of a newly formed 10-man Arizona Tactical Motorcycle Unit. And in 1980, he was asked to help a 7-year-old boy who was dying of leukemia. Chris Gracious had a dream of being a highway motorcycle cop, kind of like the TV show Chips. Frank agreed immediately and met Chris soon after. Upon his second visit, Chris was given a miniature Arizona Motorcycles trooper uniform complete with a helmet and badge. Chris asked about getting his motorcycle wing pin. Frank promised one and had it custom made that night. The next morning, Frank received a phone call. Chris was in the hospital in a coma. When Frank got to the hospital to be with Chris, he found his new uniform hanging next to his bed. Frank went and pinned the motorcycle wings pin on the collar, and when it snapped, Chris woke up and asked, "Did I get my wings? And am I an official motorcycle cop?" Frank looked at him and replied, "Yes." And he knew he fulfilled Chris's dream. Chris passed that evening. Frank and his partner were asked to represent the Arizona Department of Public Safety at Chris's funeral in Illinois. On that flight home, Frank knew Chris wasn't alone. There had to be other kids like him that they could help. Over the next 9 months in 1980, while others laughed and ridiculed Frank for having such lofty goals, Kitty, on the other hand, never wavered. The Make-A-Wish Foundation was formed. Frank found his purpose in life, and for the very first time, he knew why he was here. Frank served as president and CEO until 1984. To create something this big and grand, Frank had stickability. Where? The monument should be ideally located. County Courthouse Plaza, city property in a high-traffic area around Whiskey Row, and possibly even with the Granite Creek Corridor project. And I did talk to Tyler Goodman a few weeks ago. I can't believe this, there are a lot of Prescott citizens that have no idea who Frank was, what he did, and that he even lived here. It's important to show pride in our community for what he did. How? The power of the community is already behind this project. The list of people willing to help is already forming. I'm committed to making this happen. I also have stickability. When? Starting now. This is my wish. I don't know, but if you haven't seen the movie Wishman, it was filmed here in Prescott. The book is written by Frank. It is great. And I thank you so much for this time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Good luck with your project.
Your help. Thank you.
All right, next we have a proclamation for the 10th annual Hopefest, Arizona. And I know Jaylene Long is here to accept that proclamation.
Hi there. Sure. You want to come up too? Come on. More the merrier. All right. I'm here to present the proclamation for the 10th annual Hopefest, Arizona, September 10, 2022. There are a lot of whereases here, so just be prepared. Whereas, in 10 years, Hopefest Arizona has evolved in name and service recognition within our community because of its dedicated mission to serve veterans, active military, first responders, their families, and the most vulnerable of Yavapai County to be Northern Arizona's premier community gathering event. And whereas, on September 10th, 2022, Hopefest will lead our community to mark the passage of 21 years since the day that changed our lives forever, in collaboration with Northern Arizona VA, area veteran service providers, and first responder departments and personnel. The noon opening ceremony will commemorate the 21st anniversary of the 9/11 attacks. Whereas, following the 9/11 commemoration ceremony, the traveling memorial tribute flags will return to the Yavapai County Courthouse to be decommissioned following their year-long journey throughout our community as the flags collected the names of their fallen military on the honor and remember the flag and the names of the fallen first responders on the honor and sacrifice flag. Whereas, the remainder of the day, the Courthouse Plaza will come alive as guests enjoy local and national recording artists, guest speakers, a multitude of service vendors, 3 streets filled with car and motorcycle show, and a free family fun zone geared for all ages. And whereas, for the 10th year in the Hope Serves Family Resource Fair, local businesses, organizations, churches, and groups will impact lives by meeting the needs of our neighbors in the areas of education, housing, recovery, domestic violence, suicide prevention, mental, social, and health care, veteran family services, and first responder family services, youth advocacy, adoption, foster and elder care, employment services, volunteering opportunities, and more. Families will find hope and know they aren't alone. Whereas Love First is the theme for the 2022 festival, love is the only thing that can change the unchangeable. Love heals, uplifts, strengthens, energizes, refreshes, and renews. Hopefest has staked a claim to let love be our highest goal as we encourage our community to take the Love First challenge. Whereas both Hopefest Arizona and Hope Serves Family Resource Fair are free to the public. This is only because of the incredible generous support from local businesses, organizations, churches, volunteers. Thank you, Prescott and area communities, for wrapping around this grassroots local community outreach. We could not do this festival without you. Whereas Hopefest is truly passion in action because of the many service providers and advocates together, we are making a tangible difference in the lives of our citizens while showing by example change is possible. Now, therefore, feel good, Mayor Prescott does hereby recognize September 10th, 2022 as the 10th annual Hopefest Arizona. Do you want to do a picture?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be great. And I'm also going to call up this thing. Oh, okay.
Do you want to come on the other side and then you can, here.
And I have the flags here, and I want to.
Yeah, you want to show? Would you like to say a few words?
Thank you so much. I know a lot was said there, but Your Honorable Mayor Good and Council, thank you so much for this opportunity. And thank you, Prescott and its citizens, for wrapping around this event that has become a staple in these parts. And we thank you for coming, supporting, and sharing. And we'll see you on the September 10th. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to unfurl. I have the traveling memorial tribute flags with me, and they are gathering the names as the proclamation shared, names of fallen first responders and names of fallen military. And I just wanted to say that they came here to the council chambers.
Thank you.
John Heine.
These flags are coming back for the opening ceremony at Hopefest, and they will be decommissioned on stage. Then they will be encased. The military flag is going to forever rest at the VA, and this is going up to the Granite Mountain Museum at the mall. Thank you.
Now we'll move on to the open call to the public.
Thank you, Mayor. The City of Prescott welcomes public engagement. Residents may comment and address council regarding matters that are not included on the posted agenda during the call to the public. If you wish to speak, please complete a green speaker card and submit it to me prior to the start of the meeting. Speakers are limited to 4 minutes, and as a reminder, the call to the public will be limited to 40 minutes in total. I do have 2 speaker cards today, and the first one is from Linda Nichols.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. We thought we had 2 minutes, so I can talk a little slower. My name is Linda Nichols, and I've lived in Prescott for 12 years. As a concerned and involved citizen, I'm here to speak in support of the Prescott Police Department. As a volunteer for the past 8 years at the Chamber of Commerce, many visitors ask, is Prescott a safe community? I can honestly say yes. However, seeing the breakdown of many other cities across the country, and with the effects of our own growth, our own drug problems, and lack of officers on the street, it will be a miracle if we can continue to keep our community safe. A community that ensures a safe environment will have a positive effect on tourism, property values, vibrancy, and overall prosperity. This can only happen if we hire a sufficient number of police officers, and in order to retain them, we provide compensation that is competitive with other similar Arizona agencies. As a former training and development manager in high tech, I understand the cost benefit of training, but more importantly, I know the enormous expense incurred if that training investment is wasted. There is a high price to pay for cadets who complete the academy. However, their value upon graduation is undeniable. We stand to lose those cadets who come to Prescott because their pay and perks are not competitive with their counterparts across the state. So I looked at websites from several cities within Arizona and comparing them to our own Prescott Police Department. Every one of them, of the following that I'll mention, of those agencies, pay more than Prescott and provide incentives to attract and/or retain officers. They are Phoenix PD, Arizona DPS, Maricopa CSO, Flagstaff PD, Yavapai CSO, Cottonwood PD, Tucson PD, worst of all, Prescott Valley PD, and then we're at the bottom of that list. So Prescott is a wonderful place to live, and however, the officers, they really need to have a livable wage to pay for housing, to pay for food to put on their tables, and to clothe their children. Therefore, I ask that you or we in Prescott invest in hiring more Prescott police officers and provide them with a competitive wage. Everyone living in Prescott, visiting Prescott, everyone will appreciate and thrive in a safe and well-protected community. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you,
Thank
Linda.
you, Linda.
Sherry Hanna?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor Good and Council. My name is Sherry Hanna, and I'm here this afternoon speaking as a longtime Prescott resident, not representing any club or organization that I currently belong to. I want to express my support for the men and women who currently serve on Prescott's Police Department. We have always had the highest quality of law enforcement who have chosen to serve here. Currently, our enforcement agencies across the United States are struggling to recruit and hire good, qualified police officers. Prescott is no different. Social, political, and economic forces are simultaneously at play in shaping the current state of recruitment and retention in our law enforcement agencies. If agencies are unable to recruit quality new officers to replace those who have retired or left the law enforcement profession, it greatly increases the strain on local police organizations and officers. As vacancy numbers increase, existing officers are becoming overworked, stressed, and burned out. Our law enforcement agencies need to amend, improve recruitment, and hiring salaries to compete with other agencies, not only around our state, but in our country, to fill vacancies in our agencies. This must be done without lowering the standards or expectations that our fellow officers and our community here have come to expect. Prescott is special. Our quality of life and the security we feel living in a clean and safe community has opened the door for a high rate of population growth. New areas have been annexed into our city limits, which means more demands and territory for our police officers to protect. Our police officers have to be able to provide a decent living and support their families while being able to live in the communities they choose to serve. On June 28th, one of our own Yavapai County Sheriff's Deputy, Richard Lopez, was shot and killed in the line of duty. This reminds us of the dangers our law enforcement officers face daily. In Mayor Good's State of the City address on February 1st, 2022, he stated, "Public safety is a critical aspect of our government's responsibility to its citizens. I have directed staff to review possible new locations for public safety facilities around the city to meet the demands of our growing population. As a community, we know what we are dealing with. It can't be made any clearer. I respectfully request that now is the time for you, as our city leaders, to recognize the need to move towards protecting and supporting our police officers that protect and serve us by raising and bringing their salaries and benefits into a competitive status so that we may hire and retain good police officers to continue to serve our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry.
That's all, Mayor.
That's all? All right, very well. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Does any member of the council want to pull any items? Hearing none, then I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve consent agenda items 8A through 8G.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Councilman Sischka?
Yes.
Thank you. Passes 6-0.
All right, we'll move on to agenda item 10, liquor licenses.
Public hearing and consideration for a new Series 6 bar liquor license application from Amy S. Nations, applicant for Whiskey River Tavern, location 214 South Montezuma Street. The application fees have been paid. The signs have been posted for the required 20 days. Staff has reviewed the applications and determined that they are in compliance. No public comments have been received.
Is the applicant here? Why don't you come on up and tell us about your new location? I have to admit, I was in there a few days ago and had some really great tacos, so appreciated that.
Well, thank you, Mayor Good and Council, for allowing us a couple moments to just speak about our new bar. So this is a new venture between myself and my husband, John Stonecipher, who could not be here because he's attending to business down in Phoenix, and then Brad Fisher and Lori Fisher, who we're partners with on this venture. So the goal of Whiskey River Tavern is we would like to open this up and make this a community backyard, which is our patio for live music, good food, and a place for people to come hang out and just be able to experience the local talent of this community, which we have very much so a plethora of musicians in this area. So we're also venturing to be involved in the community as well. So this Sunday, we're going to have a fundraiser for Kevin Garcia. He is the grandson of the Chief Garcia, or former Chief Garcia for Chino Valley Police Department. Unfortunately, he was diagnosed with lymphoma cancer, which is a very aggressive one for kids. So we're doing a fundraiser for him. And we're also going to be offering music lessons on Saturday mornings for the youth of the community to come and play with some of our local musicians who are volunteering their time to do that. So that's in the works. But that is the goal of Whiskey River, is to just not only be present, but also be seen as a positive member of the community.
Well, terrific. I know, as I said, I had a chance to have an evening meal there, and it was great, and it was raining outside, but they still were playing music in the back. So it's a great location. Good luck with your plans.
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to close the public hearing.
I had a question. Yeah, we've got a comment here
Oh,
first.
excuse me. Councilman Moore.
I'm sorry, I just had a question of clarification. Was this before the council a month or two ago?
No, that was a different location.
Same
Different-
individuals, just a different.
Amy Nations she's a liquor license representative, so she does applicants for a number of different business owners
That's where I was
in town.
confused.
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll see her name frequently, I think.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Okay, so we just had a motion to close the public hearing. Please vote.
Second.
You got a second? Okay.
Councilman Sischka?
Yes.
Thank you. Passes 6-0.
I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve, to recommend for liquor license number 201164 for a new Series 6 bar liquor license application for Whiskey River Tavern, location 214 South Montezuma Street.
Second.
Motion is second. Please vote.
Sarah, I'm going to vote present due to the
Second.
proximity of Mile High Middle School. I know that legally we're okay, but I'm just not voting yes. I'm certainly not voting no.
Okay. Councilman Sishko, is that a yes?
That's a yes.
Thank you. Passes 6-0? No, 5-1?
5-0.
5-0. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to 10B.
Public hearing and consideration for a location change, Series 19 remote tasting room liquor license application from Richard Elwin. Richard, I always pronounce your name wrong. I'm sorry. Applicant for Del Rio Vineyards, location 218220 West Goodwin Street, number 4.
Is the applicant present? Want to come up and tell us? I know that you've had that tasting room there for quite a while. I think you're just moving next door or somewhere.
Yeah, just due to the overwhelming response, we're trying to meet the desires and needs of the Prescott residents. So we've been looking for a year and a half already to expand to a larger location. And this good travel agency has decided to retire. So we were fortunate enough to be able to resume that lease with them, and so we're hoping to expand to, it's about a 40% larger facility to be able to provide better access for our residents here for the cool climate wines that we produce here in the Prescott Basin.
Well, good luck with that, and it looks like your timing was just about perfect,
It was
wasn't
perfect, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lord.
it? Well, good luck with that, and I know that a lot of people go over and take advantage of your wine tasting there, so good luck with your expansion. I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
That motion is second. Please vote.
Councilman Sishka?
Oh, yeah.
Passes 6-0.
Sounds like a patron. Next step.
Mayor, I move to approve liquor license number 13133043 for a location change, Series 19 remote tasting room liquor license application for Del Rio Vineyard, location 218/220 West Goodwin Street, number 4.
Second.
Motion is second. Please vote.
Same lack of vote, same reason. Thanks.
Councilman Sishka?
Yes.
Thank you. Passes 5-0.
Very good. Good luck. All right, we'll move on to our regular agenda. Item A.
Approval of multiple contracts for the Juniper and Karen Drives water main replacement project as follows. Number 1, city contract number 2023-047 with asphalt paving and supply. And 2, city contract number 2018-118A5, an amendment to city contract number 2018-118 with Shepherd Westnitzer, Inc. for post-design services.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Tim Sherwood, Public Works. The item I have for you today is the Juniper and Karen Dryz water main replacement project. The project will include the installation of a new 12-inch water main along Senator Highway, as indicated here, up to Juniper and Karen Drive in an unincorporated area of the county. We'll be installing new 8-inch water mains on Juniper and Karen Drive, as well as fire hydrants. This project will replace an existing 2-inch galvanized water main that's fed from a water pump station located over here on Northwood Loop. This line was installed back in 1962. It's an ongoing maintenance problem for our water operations. It ultimately ends up at a 6,000-gallon tank that sits right up here off of Skyview Terrace. As part of this project, that 2-inch water line and the 6,000-gallon tank will be decommissioned and taken off the site where they're located currently. Project is part of our city small water mains program, where we identify small, as it sounds, small water mains, typically 3 inches or smaller in diameter, and replace those water mains with mains that meet current standards. This project also includes a post-design services contract amendment with Shepherd Westnitzer in the amount of $90,930. The project was advertised in June of 2022. We received 2 bids on July 28th. Public Works is recommending award of the low bid to Asphalt Paving and Supply in the amount of $3,570,000. $570,507, I apologize. Our estimate for this project was $2,517,695. As you can see, we're significantly over estimate. Staff has received written confirmation of the bid from Asphalt Paving and Supply, verification of their licensing, bonding, reference and past performances of previous municipal projects. It has been completed and deemed satisfactory. We will use a city standard construction contract for this project, and funding for this project is budgeted in FY23 from the Water Fund. And with that, I will take any questions.
Councilman Moore?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Tim. I just have a few questions. I realize this is outside the city limits, and it seems like a significant expense to non-residents of the city for a limited number of households. Are they also on city sewer?
There is no sewer in this location, no, sir.
So we're not capturing any effluent from this project?
No.
Is that something that's in the works for the future?
We looked at it. We contemplated it as part of the design up to about the 60% level of the design. We looked at it. There is really no sewer locally in the vicinity, so it requires several lift stations and force mains to get sewer out of there, and it became very cost prohibitive.
Okay. And then I guess my other question is, since the city is providing services to this unincorporated area of the county, has there been any interest in the residents of that area to be incorporated or to become part of the city?
There was no discussion that I received from the residents during the public meeting portion of the project. Also, these 67 lots up there are currently served by city water.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, like I said, it's just a 2-inch undersized main, and there is literally no fire protection up there.
Are they in the Groom Creek Fire District, or who provides their fire protection since they're outside of city limits?
Turn around now. I am not positive. I can look into that for you, though, and get you an
I'm
answer.
just curious.
Yeah, this orange line here, and I'm just kind of give you I should have said it at the beginning, is actually the edge of the city limits.
Right. I saw the exhibit in our packet, and I guess I'm just questioning why the city is spending $3.5 million for 67 homes that aren't in the city limits. We're not collecting effluent. It would seem like there might be a better use of that money. I'm not sure. I'm just raising the question.
I understand. Like I said, historically, they've been fed up there since 1962.
Mm-hmm.
And it was identified as part of, in our small water mains program, as a area that was deficient in both serviceability because of the propensity for leaks up there, as well as just being able to deliver water to the residents that live up there.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you. Well, this is an interesting project. Do we have a contract with the county, some sort of an agreement that if we do the water main, then they perform their part of the deal?
The county we've worked with the county, we've had several meetings with them. They have identified some storm drain issues up there. So we're going to work in conjunction with them while we're doing the water main project, they will work together with us to upgrade and improve some of the storm runoff they have up there currently, especially down in this end of the project right here. There are some deficiencies in the current storm drain structure that's up there. So we've been working with the county on that portion of it. Paving the road back will be part of our contract to replace the road after the roads are very narrow. There might be 16 feet wide at the most in most of the locations up there. By the time we put a water main in there, the roads will be torn up significantly.
So
it's very typical on a water main project of this size.
So I'm sorry, so the county isn't paying like 50% of this project? We're paying 100% to provide water?
It's our water main.
And it's our water main. And are the residents, are they being assessed anything?
No, not for the water main replacement, no.
Okay. All righty. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So what is our long-term obligation here? because we put a water main in 1962, we're permanently responsible for maintaining it, and the residents don't have any assessment or cost?
Joe, anything?
No, it's an interesting question, one I'd have to look into on whether we have some sort of obligation. I also don't know if there's any contractual obligation that we've ever incurred there, and that's not an issue I've looked at. I would say, or I would ask if they're being charged just the city rates that all residents are being charged, or is if there's a different rate?
Yeah, there's an upcharge for being outside the city limits.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mark.
Just the standard 30% upcharge for water delivery?
Yes, it's a standard, and again, this is part of our water service area. They're part of our water customers, just like all the customers in Chino Valley.
So this
that we
is the
have
first upgrade we've done since 1962?
to this area.
So I would imagine that the 30% upcharge over a period of 60 years might have covered the cost here.
I'd be interested. Yes, it definitely goes to cover it. I mean, I can't tell you for sure. Obviously, it's not that many customers.
Well, it looks like we're obligated to maintain the water service, but I would like to see then 60 years from now, when they have to upgrade again, maybe we have a community facilities district or something in place to help offset that cost. Councilman Montoya?
Thank you, Mayor. My question for Public Works on this is, I imagine that you guys have a way of doing prioritization of projects like this. And I guess my question is, what was the process that determined this was a priority at this point?
So as part of the program, we identify areas in town that have these 3-inch and smaller water mains. And then we also go back and look at our historic records of maintenance. Where are the biggest problem areas? And this has been identified, like I said, the water main, the main itself that crosses from this pump station off Northwood Loop within the Hazley subdivision, crosses underneath Hazley Road, climbs up this hill and goes right parallel to a property line. To maintain that, if we had a water main break up there, would be very problematic. There's no good access. And like I said, the tank has been an ongoing issue for us up there.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, it sounds like if we don't do this maintenance now, the cost down the road could be much more significant than the cost of the maintenance that we're doing now. Okay. Thank you.
Councilman Tenney.
So I share some of the concerns that have been expressed. I can't imagine a scenario in which we would legally or certainly ethically be able to just say, you've been counting on this for 60 years, but we're done with you guys, and good luck drilling some wells up there. But I would be interested, maybe before we vote on this, Mayor, with your permission, perhaps we could consider tabling this to another meeting, and we could get some legal advice on what this looks like for this particular subdivision, for other areas outside the city to which we provide water service that at a cost that seems like it may be disproportionate to the revenue that's coming in. I'm not sure, Mark, if the 30% upcharge has been in place all 60-plus years, and I don't think there's any way to pencil out whether the 3-point-whatever million here has come in from revenues from these people's water bills over the years, et cetera. And so I'm not asking for that, but I'd just be interested in looking, prior to voting on this, at some additional data and some information on this. I'm not a foot dragger in general, as you know, but before I give the thumbs up on this, I sure would like some more information. Mark, do you have any thoughts on that?
Sure. The 30% upcharge, which it currently is, it's been various things over the years. It used to be 100% upcharge. Then it was 50, then 30. It's justified each time that we do a rate study.
Sure.
As far as it being sufficient to cover the work that's being done here, obviously, infrastructure needed outside the city limit is one portion that is used in that rate determination.
Sure.
It is more infrastructure outside the city limits as opposed to infrastructure in this neighborhood. So it's more of a global, the infrastructure outside the city, not just this neighborhood has to provide enough revenue to cover its infrastructure.
Sure.
It's more of a global thing.
Absolutely.
To address Mayor's Good's comment about a CFD or a special assessment bond or something for this, again, outside the city has no authority to form any kind of a reimbursement, or it can do a reimbursement district on our line, but it can't do a CFD or a special assessment district. That would have to go through the county.
Absolutely, and I really appreciate you clarifying the global nature of this. We don't, look neighborhood by neighborhood and have these people brought in enough revenue over the last 30 years to pay for whatever. But this does seem an unusual situation where we're looking at an enormous cost, and for people who don't live within the city limits, and so in that respect have not been contributing to the tax base in the same way that others have. Although I get, the water revenue pieces, et cetera. So, it's an interesting situation to me, and I'd love a little bit more information if possible prior to voting on it personally, but I'll defer to others.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. We have a lot of other communities similar to this one. Mountain Club comes to mind. They're in the county. Very narrow roads. They're on septic, yet they have city water, and that's how things were done back then. So I think we're going to probably see more of these projects coming forward. But my question is about the roads. I've been back in there, and it seems to me, should we be responsible not only for upgrading the water system, but also upgrading the roads? Maybe the county can help out with that?
We're not really doing an upgrade. We're putting the road back in as good or better condition than we found it.
So the roads are currently paved, and we're repaving them?
Yes.
And the county's not going to help out with that? Did we ask them if they
We have
can
not
help out?
inquired with the county. Like I said, we're working with the county on addressing some of the storm drain issues they have up there. But no, we have not. I've not had a conversation with anybody at the county as far as a cost share on repaving the road. Like I said, by the time we run an excavator down that road and install a new 8-inch water main, put all the services in, as well as the fire hydrants, there's not going to be much of the road left.
And it looks like there's going to be some room for the fire trucks to turn around in, because...
Yeah, there's a continuous loop that goes all the way around from Juniper and Karen.
Because this does sound like a public health and safety issue. They don't have any fire hydrants.
No fire hydrants.
And if a house catches on fire on a windy day, it could burn down the whole neighborhood.
And
there'd
the
be
area below Karen Drive here, this parcel down here, is a southern-facing slope that comes right up out of the National Forest.
Yes, yeah, I remember that. I agree with Mr. Tenney that maybe we should table this and get some more information, and maybe go back to the county and see if maybe they can partner with us and help us out with some of these costs, especially as far as the road's concerned.
Let's see, we have Councilman Moore.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to raise another concern. I just feel like as a council, we were recently contacted, I think by the Public Works Department, that when we were trying to forward the water main and water line replacement for Buttermilk Lane, and the concern that that was a property, I believe, in the city, and these are residents of the city, and it was determined that the cost of this project was too prohibitive to proceed, and these people have been asking for relief for years, and yet we're willing to spend $3.5 million for residents outside the city. I see a conflict, and I do feel this needs to be looked at more further, because it's kind of a slap in the face to the people who've been coming to the council for a long time and have been speaking to us and asking for help with a water project in the city limits, and we've just reversed that and said we're not going to proceed, and yet we're willing to proceed with a project outside city limits. It's going to cost millions of dollars. So I just feel like we need to be very cautious, and we need to move forward slowly on this, and maybe need to take a deeper look at it.
Councilman Montoya.
Well, first off, I want to, Eric, thank you for making that point, because I think that's a really salient point to bring up. And I guess I would agree with what Councilman Tenney and Mayor Pro Tem Rusing, and it sounds like Councilman Moore just said, which is that I'm not one to drag my feet on this necessarily either, but I think there's a lot to kind of look at here. And certainly, given the fact that we recently showed the county that we were willing to partner with them on a recent road project, it would be interesting to see if they would be kind enough to return the favor in this particular instance. Whether they are or not, I still think that there's more information we need. We just don't have enough information to make a decision today.
Mr. Young, do you think you need a little more time to research the legal obligations here?
I do. In terms of whether we are obligated to do so, that being the question, I would need a little bit of time. And I could do that next meeting, but I couldn't give you an answer today.
Mr. Mayor, we could certainly approach the county about assisting us with the road in the interim.
Yeah, I think all the comments here are really on point, and this is a very substantial cost to the city for this project, and I think we need to have a clear understanding of what our obligation is and what the county's obligation to share in the cost of this upgrade. So I think we should probably make a motion to postpone a decision on this until a date certain. Can we do it for the next council meeting?
I think that's a reasonable time frame, yeah.
Mayor, if I could just add one more thing. We are under obligation, just to give you guys a time frame, we're under obligation from the time of bid opening to award within 60 days. So there's that window. At that point, the contractor can withdraw their bid. So I just kind of wanted to give you guys
When did he submit his bid?
We opened bids on July 28th, so we're looking at the end of September. Probably the two meetings in September would fit in that 60-day window. I just wanted to kind of give you guys that tidbit.
We don't want to cost ourselves more money in the end by digging for additional information.
Well, considering the fact that it's 40% higher than the engineer's estimate, things that are coming in recently, that seems to be a reasonable number, quite frankly. So, I would move to postpone a decision on this until the next council meeting on September 13th.
We need a second.
Do you need a motion, or is that your motion?
That's a motion.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion?
Did Steve want to comment on it?
Councilman Sishka, did you have any comments, or are you comfortable voting?
I'm comfortable voting, but my question was about the leakage. And is this a serious problem?
I think he was asking about leakage.
Oh, I missed part of that, so I didn't. I would have to get with the Water Ops Department to find out how often they're up there. Like I said, that's part of our analysis on looking at these small water mains projects, is how often we're up there fixing these things. These 50-year-old, 60-year-old galvanized water mains are really at the end of their serviceable life. And as I mentioned, the cross-country piece of it that goes from Northwood Loop up into the subdivision is just really not accessible.
Tim, you know what might be interesting for council too? How many other locations are we similarly situated where we're providing water from a historical reason out into the county, and bills are going to come due, and how are we going to handle them?
I can think of a few offhand, but I will have that information for
Would
you.
you
by the
like
time-
to
by the
have
time we
that
get
as
to the next
well?
council meeting.
I think we probably
Areas that we're looking at that are very similar to this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like we might have to rethink this benevolence. It worked well 60 years ago, but this is a new day, and maybe we need to get a better deal. Thank you.
Councilman Montoya.
Michael, just to add to your point, I'd also be curious to see what areas of opportunity like this exist for components of our community that are within our city limits. That would be useful to know, and might impact how we look at prioritization a little bit. Would be a little bit of my thought. Not that we don't care about everyone we're providing water to, but I think to Councilman Moore's point, people who are in the city, they are residents of our city.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Please vote.
Councilman Sishka?
Yes.
Thank you. Passes 6-0.
All right, we are moving to Item 11B.
SITE 2208 and WSA 22-009, approval of SITE 22-008, a site plan application, and WSA 22-009, a water service application for an exceptional healthcare specialty hospital, location APN 103-15-160A, 4822 East State Route 69 on approximately 8.65 acres, zoning BR Business General, property owner exceptional healthcare, applicant BMH As-Built USA of Texas.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor, council members. Tammy DeWitt, community planner with the City of Prescott. So we put these applications together. Before we've had them separate, but because they are considered together, we decided to move these forward together. So bear with us if we're missing something, and let us know if we're missing some information you'd like to see in the future so we can collaborate on that. And let's see if it'll work. Okay, so per the newly adopted City of Prescott water policy, any application that requires a water service agreement application also requires a site plan application to be reviewed by the Planning and Zoning Commission. The intent of the site plan review is to ensure that all developments have functional, well-designed, and user-oriented special requirements. So all three of these site plan applications are coming before you today because of the water policy. The subject property is located off of State Route 69 between the town of Prescott Valley, which this is considered the Diamond Valley area in the county, and the city of Prescott. It's at the farthest boundary of the city. It is owned business regional, which does allow the proposed use of the hospital, emergency hospital, which they're proposing a 9-bed emergency room and a 9-bed inpatient hospital to provide specialty care and be open 24/7, 365 days a week. Which we know this is a very busy corridor through here, and there is a hospital in Prescott Valley and in Prescott, but this gives kind of a more centralized location for emergencies to go. The property is currently vacant. It's been vacant forever, and we've had seen many different proposals on the property. It is kind of a difficult site to develop because of the terrain and also bringing sewer and water to the property. So that's something that they're in the process of getting permitted, is the infrastructure to bring sewer and water, city sewer and water to this property. Here are some pictures of the property. As I said, there is some terrain issues here that's going to be worked on. There will be a lot of screenings. It is up against residential development that's going to be required with landscaping and berming and such. And here's another view of the site looking up into the residential area. Here's a site plan that was provided with the water service application and our site plan application. It does meet all our development criteria. They will have to work with ADOT for the access off of State Route 69, and then they have the other access here off of Robin Drive. But otherwise, it meets all our development criteria for the land development code. And here's an update of it, a closer of it. This is go through our site plan review criteria. It does meet all our development criteria, and so we don't see any, there's no concerns or other issues that need to be addressed with this approval. Other development criteria that was considered as part of this application, it is within a commercial corridor overlay, which provides additional development criteria in regards to colors, screening of certain things on the roofs, and things like that, and that's all that was looked at with their building permits. And also there's residential protection standards. It is adjacent to a residential neighborhood, so we do have additional requirements for screening and buffering to make sure to maintain that buffer between the commercial and the residential development. So at the July 14th, 2022 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, the commission unanimously recommended approval of the application as submitted. This application was also heard at the August 2nd, 2022 Water Issues Subcommittee meeting for the proposed water service application, and recommended approval of the application for 3.57 acre feet per year. And that concludes my presentation. I'm free to answer any questions.
Any questions or concerns? Councilman Moore.
Thank you, Mayor. Tammy, I think you answered it, but I just want to make sure. This is in the city limits?
Yes.
So, and we'll be collecting the effluent, and not just providing water?
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think this is kind of a challenging location, and it took a more substantial project to really be able to overcome some of the challenges there. So just from that perspective, I think it's quite a good project, and quite frankly, any additional healthcare providers and services that we can have in the city, I think is something that a lot of people comment on. So I think this should be a valuable project for the community at large, and not only the residents of Prescott, but probably anybody who travels on that 69 corridor.
Is the applicant here?
I think the applicant is, yeah. I didn't recognize you without your hat. You want to come up and make a few comments, Sir Don?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name's Don Nicolini. I'm the Development Director for Exceptional Healthcare. We build community hospitals. We will build them the way you tell us to do it, and then we will save lives. That's what we do. We currently have a brand new facility open in Maricopa and in Yuma. We have one under construction in Bullhead City, and the excavation group mobilized yesterday here in Prescott. We're excited to be in Arizona. Y'all been most kind and most gracious. Be happy to answer any questions that you may have. I have my civil engineer back there with us. He does numbers. I don't.
Well, it's great to see you here, and like I said before, the addition of additional healthcare services is, I think, widely needed, and I hear comments about it pretty frequently. Councilman Moore?
Thank you, Mayor. Just another question about the site plan as far as the construction. I drive by that frequently, and it is quite an incline, and I noticed on your plan that you're planning to build down low. And I guess what I'd like to see is avoid another situation like we had several years ago with Lowe's, where they built down below, but they stripped an entire hillside that, in my opinion, was never necessary and didn't need to be done, and then they tried to fix it, and it didn't fix it. So I just want to make sure that maybe that upper hillside in the back is going to retain its natural. I mean, what are your plans for the upper area?
This guy right here designed the step down, if you would.
Okay.
That is, I've been in commercial development for 40 years.
Okay.
This is singularly the most difficult site that I've ever attempted to tackle. It's got a 97-foot drop back to front.
Wow.
So what we're doing is we're terracing it.
Okay.
We're also at the same time contemplating, and have already actually started the study of the second building, and that's to put in a ambulatory surgical center on that facility. So it's going to step up and down.
Okay.
I would also like to point out that our landscape architect is in conversations with your arborist to make sure that what we do looks good aesthetically and makes sense from water use.
I know when Lowe's did it, they did, in my opinion, a very poor job of using non-native trees and shrubs on that hillside. It's like if they had just left the pinions and junipers and scrub oak that was there, it would have looked a lot better than it looks today. And it's probably been 10, 12 years. It looks awful still. It's never recovered. And what they did put up there was non-native and has no business being up there. They put ditches and water lines and stuff all over it. And I'd just like to see that avoided in this development because of the elevation change.
That conversation is going on right now, literally, between our landscape architect and your arborist to make sure that what we do use is native.
Thank you. Sorry.
Well, that's great to hear. Any other comments or concerns?
Welcome to Prescott.
Well, thank you very much.
I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve site 22008 per site plan submitted. Am I on the wrong one?
I think you're on, yeah.
You got
it.
That's on the next page.
Right.
Okay. Can I get a second? from anyone?
Second.
Thank you.
We have motion and a second. Please vote.
Sorry, left you hanging there for me.
Councilman Sischka?
Yes.
Thank you. Passes 6-0.
Mayor, I move to approve WSA 22-009.
Second.
A motion and a second, please vote.
Councilman Zishka?
Yes.
Thank you. Passes 6-0.
Thank you for making the trip, and welcome to Prescott. We look forward to having you complete the project and start saving some more lives for us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
All right, we're going to move to item C.
SITE 22-009 and WSA 22-017, approval of a site plan application and water service application to establish a new 3,842 square foot medical building, location APN 102-06-207U, 2121 Assurance Way on approximately 2.01 acres, zoning IL Industrial Light, property owner Healing Holdings LLC, applicant Michael Taylor Architects.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Tammy Duet, Community Planner. The subject property is located off of State Route 89A off Assurance Way. It's on the corner of Assurance Way and Distinction Way in an industrial park. The property is currently vacant. We do have another medical office right across the street, so this is very consistent with the area and the type of uses we are seeing in this area. Like I said, the property is currently vacant, and this is the Tri-City Surgery Center across the street.
Right.
Here's the site plan that's been provided by the applicant. They are going to do a specialty type of medical service here, where, and then they have a trail system for people to walk around and such. And I'm sure the doctor can explain a little bit more about what he does there on the site. But this has gone through our site plan review. It meets all our development criteria, so there's no other concerns from the land development code standpoint. They did provide an extensive landscape plan, which was considered as part of their water service application. And here's some elevations that are part of what was submitted to be consistent with the area, the type of development we're seeing out there. Like I said, this went through all our site plan review criteria and meets all our criteria. This was heard at the July 14th Planning and Zoning Commission, which they recommended approval unanimously as submitted. And then at the August 2nd, 2022 Water Issues Subcommittee meeting, the committee voted to unanimously recommended approval of the application for 1.44 acre feet per year. And that concludes my presentation. I'm free to answer any questions that you have.
Is the applicant present? You want to give us a little synopsis of your plans for the facility?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council. My name is John Furman. I'm a medical doctor. I live here in Prescott. I'm certified by the American Board of Family Medicine, so I'm a general practice doctor, jack of all trades, master of none, as we like to say. This project is my baby. When it's finished, I'll be the owner and operator of the clinic. I'll also be the practicing physician inside its walls. And when I finished residency, there were some things that were very clear to me. It could have been really easy and simple for me to sign on the dotted line and go work for an institution, a group, a hospital. But the goal that I have for my patients is different from what I observed in places like that. There's a different standard. I would like my patients to be well. I would like them to thrive, and under ideal circumstances, I would like them to be healed. But I wasn't trained for that. And I'm trained for controlling symptoms, controlling pain, and also doing something that's euphemistically referred to as disease management, which really boils down to keeping people on pills so that they're not quite dead, but they aren't really thriving either, and doing that for several decades until they are dead. And I see a better way. I'd like to offer my patients a higher standard. So in order to get something different, as you know, you have to do something different. And that's the impetus behind this. From the ground up, every inch of it, has been designed to create an environment that optimizes the conditions for healing. The landscaping is a good example of that. I'm talking about that because it's right there, as you can see, and as Tammy DeWitt pointed out, there's a curvilinear walking path that travels through it. That's on a natural surface. There'll be a shade tree or two, a bench underneath for people to walk, to move, to sit outside, get a little sunshine, feel the breeze on their face. This is the kind of thing that helps people relax. Relaxed people heal better. When people enter this clinic, they'll feel like they're leaving something behind. They're entering a new space where something new, something different can take place. In a way, I think of it as a sanctuary. That's what this is aiming for. This is my offer. I'm answering a calling, and this is what I'm offering Prescott. This is what I'm presenting to you. I think the citizens of Prescott can benefit from this, and it's with a lot of joy and a lot of hope that I offer this to them.
Well, thank you, Doctor. It's kind of a unique perspective on providing family care and being a primary care physician, and then making the financial commitment to create your own building and space and offer these options, I think, is quite laudable. Councilman Moore?
Sorry, I'm talking way too much today. Thank you for your presentation. Where are you currently practicing?
I'm not seeing patients now. I'm focused on this.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Working in an institution, like I said, the divergence between what I offer, what I do, and who I am is too great.
And so when do you plan to be open so people can start being a patient?
That, I would like to see the doors open next year. I've signed with a construction company, Haley Construction. My architect has been great. I'm ready to go.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to commend you because I personally have a very strong belief that that our connection to nature is very powerful and very important. That's something that's important to me, and so I appreciate your approach and what you've presented today. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good luck. Councilman Montoya.
I want to say, Dr. Furman, it's been a pleasure. You sent me a letter that was waiting for me before I actually got sworn into office, and I had the pleasure of sitting down with you and addressing your concerns on a separate matter. And I remember in that meeting you talked about this vision. So for me, it's very nice to have seen this come to fruition to this final step, and it's very clear from your presentation and the way you're talking about your vision for this facility that it's a place that's a very heartfelt mission for you, and I very much relate to the idea of being called to do something. So I wish you the best of luck with your endeavor.
Thank you.
Excellent. You may want to make a motion.
Yeah, sure. Mayor, I move to approve SITE 22-009 per site plan submitted.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Councilman Sischka?
Yes.
Thank you. Passes 6-0.
Mayor, I move to approve WSA 22-017.
Second.
A motion and a second. Please vote.
Councilman Sischka?
Yes.
Thank you. Passes 6-0.
Congratulations and good luck, Dr. Furman.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll move to item 11D.
SITE 22-010 and WSA 22-018, approval of site plan application and water service application to establish a new 10-unit village using Airstream type trailers for short-term rentals. Location APN 109-03-100, 310 South Montezuma Street on approximately 0.97 acres. Zoning BR Business General, property owner Loma Buena LLC, applicant Kimley Horn and Associates.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Tammy DeWitt, Community Planner. So the request before you is a site plan review for a village-type setting for basically like a motel. But instead of using site-built buildings, they're going to use Airstream-type trailers. Not really Airstreams, but they look like Airstream trailers. It's going to be a park-like setting. They plan on having 2 fire pits, an event lawn, and landscaping to create that atmosphere for a new type campground, but not. So the property is located along Montezuma Street in Carlton at the corner, right here. Sorry. It's currently vacant. There was uses there before, but they have all been demolished, and the property has been cleared since then. Here's what it looked like before. It was a hotel plus, I think, a car repair place. So not very Montezuma-like. So this may be an improvement to the property from the way it was before. Here's a picture of the property. It is on the corner of Carlton and Montezuma next to the middle school. Like I said, it has been cleared and went past all the environmental clearings and such through ADQ. Here's the site plan that was provided. They plan on putting 10 Airstream trailers, Airstream type trailers, here to be used for short-term rentals like a hotel. They won't be moving. They're going to be set in place. They can't be moved. It is in a floodway. So they will be meet all flood elevation criteria, and they will be set into the property where they can't be moved, or if a flood occurs, they're going to be out of the floodway. We do have parking here off of Montezuma. They are providing additional parking spaces along Carlton and Montezuma for additional parking beyond what's required for the site plan. We do have an event lawn here and a lawn here, and then there'll be extensive landscaping through the property. And here's their landscaping plan to show. Like I said, once these trailers are in and landscaping's in, they aren't going anywhere. So even hopefully during a flood. So. But it does meet all our development criteria for that type of use. The only thing they're going to have to change is up here. This is considered the front Carlton for setback purposes, and the proposed fence that goes outside this front setback line will have to be moved in because it cannot exceed 6 feet within the front setback area. So this fence will just have to be changed. That's the only thing that's going to have to be changed on their site plan. Here's some photos that were produced. We are starting to see these around the country, that these type of campgrounds where people can stay. It's a nostalgic thing. We all see the Airstreams, and they're pretty and bright and shiny, and they're really cool to stay in. So it is kind of neat to see this coming to the city of Prescott. And then they want to create a park-like setting, so it's a place where you want to hang out and relax, either after visiting the restaurants and bars on Whiskey Row, or just to hang out here with your family. This does go through all our site plan criteria. It does meet all our criteria in regards to parking, circulation, and outdoor lighting will be reviewed too to make sure it meets our dark sky requirements. This was reviewed at our July 14th, 22 Planning and Zoning Commission. They did vote 3-2 of the application as submitted. There was a couple of concerns or questions. One was that why wasn't there an access point off of Carlton? There is no place along Carlton to have an access point. It's too close to Montezuma, and they are proposing parking up here. And once these are set, no RVs are coming on and off the property. It's just regular car traffic. So the one access onto Montezuma is very sufficient for this property and what we would normally see with a motel site. The other concern was the event lawns. And since there was no one representing the project at the Planning and Zoning Commission, there was no one there to answer any questions of what type of events. There was concern about being so close to the middle school and what type of activities may occur on the event lawn. So, but we do see events happening at the middle school, right across the street on school property. So we're not concerned with what activities would occur on the property. And that concludes my presentation. Oh, I did go to the water service, sorry, the August 2nd, 2022 Water Issues Subcommittee. It was reviewed, and there were some questions about possibility of using turf instead of grass and other things to try to reduce that water usage. They are only asking for 2.6 acre feet per year, which does not exceed the 50% of the remaining water budget. So that concludes my presentation. I'm free to answer any questions you may have.
Councilman Montoya.
Thank you, Mayor. I actually wanted to see if, I noticed that Chairman Don Michaelman from the Planning and Zoning Commission is here, and I know from having attended the past few planning and zoning meetings that there's a new kind of procedure to bring one of either the chair or the vice chair to these meetings. And so I was curious if Chairman Michaelman might talk a little bit more about Planning and Zoning Commission's review of this process.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, council members. There were some additional questions we had, and unfortunately, as Tammy mentioned, the applicant wasn't available to answer them. Tammy brought some up, and some of the additional ones is there going to be an on-site manager? The parking on site already meets the qualifications. Why are there going to be additional parking on the 2 streets there too? And so these are additional questions that we had that we unfortunately will not be able to get answer to. Yeah.
Thank you.
Is the applicant present? There we go.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
I'm Spencer Andrews. This is my partner, Austin Andrews. We're developing this lot. To address the questions for the off-site parking, that was mostly to offer additional parking up there to the general public. If there was to be an event or some kind of group booking, if you will, which exceeded the available spaces on site, we'd obviously be able to offer those. But it was more an intention to extend a parking lot further down that south of Montezuma, because there's pretty limited, as you may know already.
So how are we going to control those parking spaces? Will they be 2-hour or unlimited? What?
They'd be public in the public right of way.
Unlimited,
Unlimited.
right?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Gwen Rowich. Those parkings would not have spaces on Carlton would not have time limits on them. As you can see on the site plan there on South Montezuma, those are handicap spaces, and the applicant does not have on-site handicap spaces, so staff was supportive of the request for the handicap spaces specifically on South Montezuma. And I've spoken with Ian Mattingly, our city traffic engineer, about that, and that is a continuation of a parking format that occurs down South Montezuma, so he has no concerns about adding those spaces on Montezuma Street.
All right, and how about the concern about an on-site manager?
So there won't be any on-site manager. Both myself and Austin live in town, and these will be operated much like an Airbnb rental. So it'll be limited to 2 adults in each unit. There's not really any concern of partying or any issues like that. But if there were, we would be the 24-hour contact and can respond, within a moment's notice.
So are these long-term rentals or short-term? What's the expectation?
They would be short-term rentals. They could operate potentially as monthly. That's not our clientele. We're looking to attract more of the weekend 2 to 3 night trip tourists.
Well, I know that's kind of a challenging location, to say the least.
Yeah.
And when I first saw the plan, being able to provide some type of a quality development in that floodway is a big challenge. So being able to put together something like this, I think, would be pretty valuable. Councilman Moore?
Thank you, Mayor. Tammy, I'm not sure if this question's for you, but you showed fencing kind of along the north edge, I think, along Carlton. Is there going to be fencing on Montezuma, and if so, what type? Because I don't know that we want fencing along Montezuma Street. So how would that appear or look to the public?
There is proposed, these lines here is proposed fencing, probably for security. I'm not sure the type of fencing.
Can you address that? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so it's varying degrees. The different colors kind of denote different heights, if you will. The green is open spacing for like a mesh type of material, if you will. So it allows for vegetation to grow up. And then we're still discussing, I don't know if we have any of the photos, what type of material. We were talking about using cinder block to allow for flow through for water underneath the wall. But it wouldn't be chain link fencing or anything like that.
Yeah, I guess I'm concerned about the appearance. I really like this concept. I just have concerns about maybe the location for this concept, but it really is the gateway into our downtown community, our downtown area, and it would be nice if it was kind of consistent with the appearance. I mean, you're basically going from a very historic district, into this area, and I think it would be nice to maintain that flow of continuity of appearance, and having fencing, I think, would kind of take away from it, so I just have a concern there.
Yeah, well, and that's our intention, is to really continue that feeling of the historic and beautiful aspects of downtown, and that was our goal, is to extend that corridor further down Montezuma. So, I hear your concerns, but we're also actively trying to accomplish the same thing that you're suggesting here, which is make sure it looks good and it doesn't stick out like a sore thumb.
Will the fencing have to be approved by the city at some point, or?
It's part of their engineering permit.
Okay, so you'll have a look at it and you can say, yeah, that's acceptable, or that's really not appropriate for this
Yes.
location.
Yes, correct.
Okay, one last question. You know me and plants. The property currently has historically had a lot of Siberian elm. And are you going to remove all of the invasive Siberian elms in your landscape plan and replace it with native vegetation and get rid of invasive trees like Siberian elm that shouldn't be in Prescott?
So forgive my ignorance, the Siberian elms, are those big trees?
There's probably some cottonwoods in there too. I'd have to go on site and I could point them out to you. But I just know that historically we have a lot of Siberian elms in our riparian corridors, and it's not a native tree. It's a very invasive tree. And I just wondering, she showed a landscape plan. I was just wondering, in your landscape plan, if there are Siberian elm in here, are you going to be removing that and replacing it with native vegetation?
Well, most of the vegetation will be removed. There are a couple of trees. They're the same ones around the courthouse. Are those the ones you were talking about? That's one of the reasons why we got the property.
I'll talk real quick. Andrew Baird, Kimley Horn, the design engineer for the project. Not the landscape architect, but so the larger trees are going to remain. We're cleaning up all the underbrush, so the little invasive suckers that are growing up, all those will be cleaned. But the larger elms that have been there for years, those will stay for shade. So we're working, the whole site works around those, and obviously the cottonwoods are going to stay. So we'll clean up all the
Cottonwoods
lower
are great.
line.
I mean, they're native.
I'd just like to break in. We've been having a discussion on other projects, native versus non-native, invasive, and I think those elms there are beautiful. I'm a native of Arizona, and I have been watching our native vegetation, our ponderosas, our piñons, our junipers have gotten blighted, and they've been dying. You can just look at the hills. But our, quote, invasive species have been thriving, and I think we're in a state of flux, and I think we need to save as many of those elms. I mean, they're at least over 100 years old, and they're very stately, and they kind of add to that Midwestern historic feel that we have, and I think it would go great with your kind of mid-century modern project. And so I want to congratulate you for being very creative, and I support this 100%, and I think it'll be a very unique asset to our community.
Councilman Tenney.
I think I still had the floor when I got interrupted.
Sorry.
I politely disagree with Councilman Rusing in the sense that something that's not native, particularly from another continent, really doesn't have any business being on our courthouse plaza, let alone in our landscape plans. But there are a lot of native trees and shrubs that you could put there, like Gooding willows or Fremont cottonwoods, and I could certainly help with that, or any landscape architect would help with that. And they're wonderful, beautiful trees that would add to the beauty of your property. So I would just say that.
Councilman Tenney.
So as long as we're micromanaging your landscaping for you.
It's important.
I am curious how many square feet of lawn you're planning on putting in, and if you've considered turf.
That was asked at the water subcommittee meeting. I didn't have it handy, but today I do.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you.
Exactly 7,245 square feet of lawn area.
That's considerable.
the owners can speak to this. We contemplated it, we looked into it, but ultimately from just a viability of the site and what they were looking for in terms of the overall aesthetic, we went with lawn and brought that forward to the Water Subcommittee. Would you like to speak to it as well?
Yeah, so we did talk about using synthetic turf, but because it's going to be a pet-friendly property, the concern was cleanliness and how often we'll have to essentially irrigate and wash the grass regardless. And so through that discussion, we just decided that if we can get the real grass there, it would provide that much better of an experience and provide, you know, a little cleaner of a surface for people to enjoy, you know, a park.
And cooler.
Right.
Okay. Well, I will say that I really appreciate that what was there before is gone. I've worked for the school district, and that was an eyesore for decades there, and you know, it attracted vagrants and criminal activity, et cetera. So it's so nice that you've torn down what's there. Appreciate that. And I'm generally in favor of this. If you were to consider, you know, kind of a balance of, let's do turf. It looks like at least 3 different areas to me. Let's do turf here and lawn here to kind of meet the goals that you're talking about with having a pet-friendly area, but also maybe reducing the water use in an area that won't be open to the general public, but only paying folks. You'll have my full support. You might have my partial support either way, but that's a lot of turf. That's a lot of lawn, I guess, is what I'm saying for 7,000 something. That woo. And there's more to it than just, you know, the water bills that of course you'll be paying. There's a community responsibility piece to that I think we could achieve greater balance personally.
I would suggest that maybe after you get a year's worth of water bills, you may reconsider and maybe go with kind of a hybrid approach, you know, have the grass and then maybe some artificial turf in other areas where the pets won't be going. But all in all, I think this is a wonderful project. And plus, you know, there's grass species that are a little more hardier and less water. I think we have a Prescott blend, don't we?
Mayor Pro Tem, so there are grass choices on the low water plant use list that they will be required to use for this project. So that was one of the things that we worked through them at the staff level. We asked about turf. They told us their concerns about turf. Their water use was still approximated based on the 1.5 acre feet per acre because they are required to use grasses from the low water use plant list. And there are several on there, and we'll work with them to hopefully find one that will work for their project. But we're not anticipating, although the area is large, I would venture to guess it's not that much larger than the good doctor that was just here. His area of landscaping is also quite large, and his water use was similar to this one. He'll just be using plants and bushes and things like that instead of having some grass areas. So I hope that helps in your decision that they will be using low water use grasses.
Good information. Thank
you.
Thank you.
All right, any other comments or concerns? Micromanagers? I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move that we approve site 220-010.
Second.
Motion is second, please vote.
Councilman Sischka?
Yes.
Passes 6-0.
And Mayor, I move that we approve WSA 22-018.
Second.
Motion is second, please vote.
Councilman Sischka?
Yes.
Thank you. Passes 6-0.
Good luck with your project, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, John. All right, we'll move on to item E.
Thank you, Mayor. And FYI, Councilman Sischka is signing off, so he won't be with us for the remainder of the meeting.
We were just warming up.
Approval of WSA 22-013 water service application submitted by Paul Aslanian on behalf of property owner Craftsman Court Holdings LLC, location APN 306-24-012, a 10-acre parcel in the southwest one quarter of the northwest one quarter of Section 23, Township 16N, R02W, GSRB, and M.
Afternoon again, Mayor and Council. Gwen Rowich, Deputy Public Works Director. So this item before you is a water service agreement application outside of the city limits. It's located in Chino Valley, and the property is part of the Chino Valley Irrigation District agreement that the city entered into in 1998. This particular parcel, it's shown here on the map. It lies between Road 1 North and Road 2 North, just east of Road 1 East. It's this one here shown in red. It's an approximately 10-acre parcel, and as such, it has the right to 1 dwelling unit per acre for a total of 10 dwelling units under the CVID agreement. The applicant, Paul Aslanian, went before the town of Chino Valley and received approval of a preliminary plat for 45-lot subdivision. So obviously 10 dwelling units from the city and the 45 lots don't add up. So Mr. Aslanian went out and has put into escrow extinguishment credits. Those are essentially grandfathered water rights that went with properties located in the Chino Valley Irrigation District, where the property owner said, I'm not going to use this land for agriculture uses anymore, so I would like to extinguish my credit, my water use credits, and hold on to them. So Mr. Aslanian approached 3 different owners of these extinguishment credits in order to purchase the additional water that might be required to, or that is required to meet the water requirements for the additional 35 lots. Under the 2022 water management policy, let me just bring up a different map for you. There's his subdivision plat. Under the 2022 management policy, policy number 22, any applicant for development and/or water service within the City of Prescott water service area may acquire and present for consideration sufficient extinguishment credits to support their development. The volume of these credits will be required to meet the calculated 100-year demand for water. The project must connect to city sewer before water supplies can be provided. So under the current water policy, average single-family residential water use is estimated at 0.17 acre feet per year. These 35 lots multiplied by 0.17 equal 5.95 acre feet per year. This number has to be multiplied times 100 because each extinguishment credit is only for 1 year. This means that Mr. Aslanian would need to purchase a minimum of 595 extinguishment credits in order to meet the minimum water demands for his additional 35 lots. He has since secured 3 separate purchase agreements that contain a total of 702.12 acre feet of extinguishment credits, which he will transfer to the City of Prescott to serve these remaining 35 lots. He did submit a water demand analysis for the project, which in addition to the single-family residence included some landscaping elements. This analysis was provided by Herb Dishlip Consulting. The estimated water use with the landscaping is 696 acre feet, or 6.96 acre feet when you multiply it by 100. Although the applicant is bringing to us 702.12. So he's actually purchasing 6.12 acre feet more than is required for his project. Although this project will not be tied to City of Prescott sewer, it will be tied to Town of Chino Valley sewer. That is a new requirement under the town code that any project that has lots less than an acre in size must tie to a public sewer system. This application is partly part of an existing contract and therefore, and partly to be served by extinguishment credits, and therefore it was not considered under the city water budget at this time, which is policy 12. Upon approval of this request, the applicant will finalize the purchase of the extinguishment credits and transfer them to the City of Prescott water portfolio. This request was presented to the Water Issues Subcommittee on August 2nd and was recommended unanimously to approve the request. I'm happy to answer any questions you have, as I know this is a bit different than what we normally see for water requests. And the applicant is here.
Councilman Tenney?
So if I followed everything and I was able to read in advance what you said, or else I would have been like, what? So now hearing it the second time, I think I'm there.
Different.
Yeah, I get there pretty slowly, but I'm there. I think this is exactly how we want it to be done in terms of the policies that we've set out, et cetera. And I'm very much in favor of somebody having jumped through all of the hoops that we've set out there and getting us a little bit more water in our portfolio than we would have had before. I get, paper water versus real water, et cetera. Let's not have that discussion right now, but it sounds like the applicant's done literally everything we've asked, and I'm in favor of this.
I can tell you that the few cases that we've seen where individuals have come to the city and asked us to purchase these extinguishment credits from them to add into our portfolio, these are not inexpensive. Extinguishment credits generally are somewhere between $200 and $400 each.
Sure.
And this is 702 extinguishment credits, so it's not a small investment.
And just to clarify, I'm sure our contract with the applicant will contain a qualification, a contingency for the extinguishment credits actually to be obtained in the way that you're assuming before we give final approval, yes?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Oh, I was just going to ask Gwen to speak to the public and just make sure that they understand that we're legally obligated and that we have a water district in Chino and we supply them with city water.
That's correct, Mayor Pro Tem. In 1998, when the city acquired the lakes, the contract that was entered into at that time included the city acquiring many of the water rights that were in the Chino Valley Irrigation District at that time, but not everyone had to sell their extinguishment rights or their grandfathered rights at that time. And so, as I mentioned earlier in my presentation, when those folks decide that they're not going to farm the land anymore, they can convert those grandfathered rights into an extinguishment credit, which they can then hold on to and sell to someone else who may want to use that water right. But the city is contractually obligated to serve many parcels of land in the Chino Valley area as part of the original Chino Valley Irrigation District contract when we purchased the lakes.
And Mayor, the good news, if I'm not mistaken, is that it's done under the City of Prescott water regulations, which are more stringent than those in the county or those in our neighboring communities as well. So it's all coming from the same aquifer. It's not like water's coming from someplace else. That water is being served outside the city limits, sure enough, but in kind of the best way possible for those of us who are concerned about conservation.
Councilman Moore?
I just had a question about the project itself. Knowing that originally it was designed for 10 houses, but you're going to get 45 houses, right, in the same area. So I imagine they're significantly smaller. Would you consider this workforce housing? Is it going to be affordable housing?
Absolutely. Part of the reason it was rezoned is the property was incorrectly zoned, let's say, or transitioned. Per the master plan of Chino Valley, it called for medium density, and this met the qualification, yet it had agricultural zoning. But yet it was surrounded by higher density. So to answer your question, in fact, when we got it approved, I was told by council, and they said, if this was you picked the perfect place for this type of a project. But to answer your question specifically, it does meet the criteria of workforce housing. I wish it could be lower price than it is, but it'll meet in the neighborhood of, let's say, $330,000 to $400,000. And there aren't a lot of projects anywhere anymore in that price point for single family detached. Right.
That's why I wanted to raise the issue, because we've been talking about that a lot today, and we're very much supportive of that, and we appreciate what you're doing to provide more affordable housing in the Tri-City area.
Well, and I hope we're working on a project right now, or conceptually, let's say, and I haven't brought it to the city yet, but hoping to bring something to the city similar to this.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. So are you going to be using the low water use, drought tolerant plant palette.
No Siberian elms.
No Siberian elms. I've got a few of those, and Eric, you'll be happy to know I cut them down recently. They were
tell
pretty
you what
bad
color to
shape.
paint your doors as well, if that's all right.
What's that?
Can we tell you what color to paint your doors as well?
No, we'll stop there.
Well, it sounds like a very good project to me.
Good.
I'll entertain a motion at this point.
I move to approve or do not, move to approve WSA 22-013.
Second.
Motion is second. Please vote.
Passes 5-0.
Congratulations and good luck with your project. All right, now we're moving on to item F.
Approval of the 2022 Arizona League of Cities and Towns resolutions to be voted on at the League's annual resolutions meeting.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm Tyler Goodman with the City Manager's Office, here with the 2022 League resolutions. I'll try to make this brief. I know it's been a long day. And just as a reminder, these will move forward to the League of Cities Conference next week. There's a resolution committee. The mayor is sitting on that committee on behalf of the city. So this is to receive direction on how the votes should be cast. For the sake of time, I think I'll just go through them briefly and then turn it over to you if you have any questions or concerns about any one of them, if that sounds okay. The first one is to remove the statutory requirement to adjourn a regular meeting to gavel into a special meeting for adopting a budget. Currently, we have to go into a special meeting to adopt a budget. This would make it so that it could continue on in a regular meeting, just like we're having today. The second one, to allow municipalities above 2,500 and under 10,000 in population, whose existing general plan was approved by voters, to submit a new general plan for approval at the next regularly scheduled municipal election or special election. You can tell this would not affect the city of Prescott. In fact, they only believe it affects the city of Sedona, and they're having some issues with population decrease and their general plan and not having the authority to go back out to voters because of that. So this would help fix that for them. The third one would be to permit cities and towns to post public notices and ordinances on either the municipality's website, in a local newspaper, or both. Currently, state law says that we have to post these notices in a locally distributed newspaper. This would make it so that we could post it on the website and not in the newspaper, but we don't have to stop putting it in the newspaper. You could do both. The next one, amend statute to no longer require exhibits to be published if the exhibit's location is listed within the adopted ordinance and is accessible to the public. Currently, we do have to adopt it separately, and this would make it so that is not the case. The next one, clarify statute to require contact information on political signs not directly affiliated with a campaign committee or candidate. Currently, there's a loophole where if you're not affiliated with the candidate or campaign committee, you are allowed to place these signs and not have contact information. As you know, if we find signs right now in city right-of-way that has no contact information, we pull them, and that is allowed by statute, but there is a loophole. I don't think it's being taken advantage of very much, but the fact that it's there on the books means it could be, so this is cleaning that up. And let's see, the second to last here, support state appropriations to the Housing Trust Fund. This one came from the League of Cities itself. From a lot of conversations this past session, in talking with a lot of legislators, they think there's good support to add more appropriations into that housing fund. And just as a reminder, that housing fund pays for, or the funds are used for rapid rehousing, transitional housing, workforce housing programs, rental assistance programs, and the low-income housing tax credit projects. So there's a lot of good that it does, and it kind of falls in line with the conversations we've been having about affordable housing. And finally, the last one is to amend statute to provide the Department of Liquor and License Control the authority to grant local governments an extension in time to review and act on liquor license applications. This has been a common practice. However, a recent interpretation from an assistant attorney general kind of stopped this practice, and so this would actually make it so that the director could allow extensions if we're working with an applicant, for example, on fixing some fire safety issues or other elements of their application. that they need more time beyond the 60 days, the director would be able to grant that. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that I can on these and get some feedback.
Questions, comments, concerns? Councilman Montoya.
The one that jumps out at me, Tyler, is the one about permit cities and towns to post public notices and ordinance on either the municipality's website, in a local newspaper, or both. I have concerns about the idea that we would just do particularly just a municipal website. I think even though not a lot of people necessarily take the paper in Prescott anymore, it's still better than just putting it on our website and hoping someone can find it. And I think for me, it comes down to good governance, I guess. You know, you could go down a slippery slope where if we didn't want people to know about something, we would post it on a hard to find place on the website. And we have had a lot of discussion recently about challenges related to our website, and gosh, I would hate to see that other towns or municipalities might abuse that ability to do it. So, I mean, that's the one that jumped out at me that I would have a hard time supporting.
But
Mayor Pro Tem.
thank you. This ordinance would, the statute would give us a choice. We don't have to just use the website.
Correct.
Right.
You could use both, and
We could
I believe council could make that direction.
Yes.
Maybe as a policy. I'm not sure if that's the right.
Yeah, because I think this is an option to put it on the website just in case our local paper ceases to exist or something. Then we would be posting it on the website. But as long as we still have a local paper, I prefer to see it in print.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Councilman Moore. Sorry about that.
You're fine, Mayor. Thank you. I echo what both Councilman Montoya and Councilman Ruthing has said. I have a concern that there would be a lot of municipalities who would probably see this as an opportunity maybe to save some money and just put it on the website only. I know Brandon and I have been recently meeting with a gentleman who doesn't have a computer, and he lives in Highland Pines, and he uses a bicycle to get around. And for him to access a computer, he'd probably have to ride his bike to the library to see this public notice, and he wouldn't know that he needed to because it wasn't in the paper. And so I would rather see the wording instead of or, maybe and, so that they can put it on the website if they like to, but I think it should still be a requirement to put it in print. So I don't want to put it like either or. I think it should be both. I would prefer that change in the wording.
Councilman Tenney.
Tyler, can you give us 30 seconds of education on what we'd actually be voting on here and whether we have specific control over this in Prescott or not?
Yes, thank you. And I failed to do that. The process is after this committee meets and these are voted on, the league then has direction generally from the cities and towns in Arizona. They still have to go find bill sponsors. They still have to get the support to even draft a bill. And then they have to get it through the legislative process, which you know is not easy to do.
Just at least a year out.
Would they be doing it for the
Next year's
2023 legislative session? Correct. We don't have the ability, well, I shouldn't say that exactly. The mayor could make comments at that meeting stating that we had this conversation, that we'd prefer to see a tweak in the language.
Yeah.
But just knowing there's 91 cities there represented, there's not a whole lot of dialogue typically. Each city is represented, but they tend to do these very quickly, and they don't mince words or change a lot on the fringes.
And if I may, the situation legally is okay already. So it's really just whether to remove, the purpose of this is to remove the requirement to use a paper.
Yeah, that would be the consequence. Mm-hmm. So for those cities that no longer want to pay to have a notice put in the local newspaper, they'll just put it on the website. And you're right, I think that people that do want to monitor that stuff are going to have a computer. Yeah. I mean, we got 400 members in my VFW post, and over 200 of them don't have computers.
Wow.
But just to clarify, we would be at liberty to do whatever we like in Prescott, given the current wording of this, if it were to go through the process and be adopted by the legislature and signed by the governor. And in the meantime, we don't have a lot of direct input on this, so this discussion is interesting, but perhaps not as efficacious as we think it might be.
I appreciate having that discussion. So when I sit on the Resolutions Committee, I'll recommend that we not approve this. And I think you'll all agree that I am very willing to make contrary recommendations. Okay.
Well, it's all about transparency.
All right, so I guess we would conclude then that you would agree to all of these resolutions except for GAHRE 3. Sure. Very good. I have my direction. Thank you very much.
Do we need to do a motion?
We do.
Go ahead.
Mayor, I will move to approve the 2021 League of Cities resolutions as discussed.
Second.
Is that going to be sufficient?
That was good, Brandon.
Okay. Okay, we have motion and second. Please vote.
Passes 5-0.
All right, where the heck are we now?
We're on G.
All right.
Last but not least.
Receive presentation from Tri-City College Prep Headmistress regarding possible settlement of claims related to the middle school building and possible adjournment to executive session to discuss and consult with the city's attorneys for legal advice, to consider the city's position and instruct its attorneys and necessary city employees in discussions regarding possible settlement discussions pursuant to ARS Section 38-431.03A3 and A4.
Very good.
So if I may, the presentation can be part of the public. The executive session information is whether there's any negotiation afterward or there's a desire for legal advice. So the presentation, though, is by headmistress.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Mayor and Council, for taking the time to meet with me after this long day. My name is Mary Ellen Halverson. I live at 2965 Pleasant Valley Drive here in Prescott. I am representing Tri-City College Prep. I am the superintendent. That's actually my title, not headmistress, but that's okay. I take that too. I'm representing the school as well as the HTH Charitable Foundation, who helps provide facilities for the Tri-City College Prep. I'm also here representing the students and the parents and the staff and all the friends, many of whom who are praying right now. I'm here today because of a city mistake. I was informed of the mistake on March 15th of this year. In a meeting, Mayor Good was there, and our city manager, Mr. Lamar, was there. Others, I think Robin Sabata was there, as well as Chelsea Walton, and other people that I can't remember right now. I was informed that 8 years ago, there was a mistake made, approximately 8 years ago, in applying the formula for establishing the impact zones around the airport. And when looked at, my location no longer would accommodate a school. At that time, I had already purchased the land. I had completed architectural and engineering plans. I had contracted with a local construction company. I had passed all of the city department approvals in the PAC review process. E-Track actually showed that there were approvals on all the departments, and even the dollar amounts assigned for the permits. That later changed. I had already purchased a lot of the materials, had them manufactured and delivered. The biggest, of course, was the building itself, which was delivered on August 20th and of last year, and it has been laying on the ground since. I'd already paid all my financial assurances. I had my inspection fees paid. I had paid for and picked up 2 permits for grading, drainage, utilities, and fire suppression. All those had been done. The staff and myself, we looked very diligently to find another location for this building, and unfortunately, nothing worked. Each of the alternative locations would have cost a considerable amount of money, too. So that's to remember that. The original settlement agreement that came, which I want to thank you for, was for relocating the building, and that was very complete in what it was offered. But since we cannot relocate the building, we need to look at what we can do now in the process of correcting this error. With the city's blessing and all the departments and everything, I had already spent $602,285. Majority of that is the building, so that's good because we can sell the building and recoup some of those losses. But we must resell the building quickly. I don't know if you're familiar, I'm sure you are, that a metal building comes pre-engineered to meet the IBC code, the International Building Codes, for a certain location and for a certain time period that those codes are in effect. And I looked it up, and they have already begun, as of January 2021, they had already begun reworking on the new IBC. So that's just timeliness there. If the new codes come out and they don't match what the previous codes said, then this building laying on the ground could become worthless. It has to actually be up and being used. We also, when we're looking at selling the building, need to consider that we need to deduct about 15% of what I paid, because part of that I paid was also the shipping costs of the building. And so that was to ship to my property, and now a new owner will have to pick it up there and ship it to a new location. It came on 4 semi-trucks of material, and it takes a crew where you're loading and a crew where you're unloading, and they must have a what's called a reach lift in order to empty these semis. So that's an expensive proposition. So my plan, I always have a plan, what I'm going to do. I'm going to just plan, we'll sell this building because it was a very large building. I have to give that was very large and very difficult to try to put it anywhere. So I'm going to go with just a smaller building and put it on the parking lot at the original Tri-City College Prep campus. What we'll need to do, something from the original agreement that was offered, was that the city would be willing to share Peavine parking lot and maybe even increase that a little bit. So we will need to do that, because even though this is a smaller building, it will be taking up some parking spaces. And we also will need to, as was agreed to earlier, increase or move the Peavine, or no, the fire lane. Remove the fire lane. That was, if we put the building on our property, it's going to block the fire lane. So, and that Chelsea Walton has already been, she's here today. There she is. She's already been diligently working on that, because the fire lane can be moved to an easement that the city already owns on the north side of the property. It's a utility easement. We just need to say we need to make it also a fire easement. And then I can donate a property for an easement for a fire lane on my property, and then there's one little piece in there that we'll need to kind of figure out. So, making it quickly as I can, I want to thank the council and the mayor for your understanding, and I'm sure you agree this should not have happened. It has been an expensive undertaking for the school due to no fault of our own, and it's an enormous amount for us, for a small school. We're asking for fair and just compensation. And just so you know, the school is losing approximately $450,000 a year in income for the 75 students we could have included in our enrollment. And that will be until we get a new building and can take those students that are sitting on a waiting list wanting to come. But I'm not expecting you to compensate me for my lost revenue or for the land. Any questions?
How many square feet is this steel? It's a steel building, right?
Yes, it is. It's 15,560 square feet. And one of my suggestions was the city could probably use it somewhere, if you're going to have to, if you go 50-50 with, I get 50% of it out of a sale and 50 from the city, then that's no money. But if the city wants to buy it, it might be a valuable building somewhere for storage or something. We've tried. I tried a campground that is building right now, and they looked at it, but it wouldn't work for them. I still have a possibility of a hay barn out in Williamson Valley, so that's kind of. But there is a small business in Cottonwood that would go the 175, half 50% on it. I've had a real estate agent working on it. We looked at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, and their time frame would probably not get this done in the time frame we need to do in order to recoup the most value for the building. But I'm still talking with them. I mean, if they would pop up and say, yes, we'll take it today, for so much money, and it's better than what the Cottonwood place would, I'd take it. I haven't signed a contract with anyone. I'm trying to do the best I can at getting this building sold for the most. My architect's been looking. Bees Contracting's been looking. Had a lot of people looking.
Question, Councilman Montoya.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Superintendent.
Yes.
Maybe I'm not following. I know you referenced the previous offer when you were able to relocate to a different site and whatnot. What is it that you're specifically seeking at this point from the city?
Just compensation for my financial losses.
So in the amount that you said, that $602,000?
But it wouldn't be that much because we can take the building down.
Okay, so less the sell of the building.
Correct.
And you think that at this point you can only get about 50% of the value of the building?
In a meeting, I was told by contractors that I would get 10 cents on the dollar. That was our local contractors and building professionals that I've been meeting with. They said, you'll be lucky to get 10 cents on the dollar. I can sell better than that. So I went out to try to get more, and I got 50% for sure.
Okay, and so what would that amount be, that 50% amount?
That would be $175,000.
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I don't see anyone from city staff here, but weren't we I don't know where we are in the process over at the old wastewater treatment plant. Weren't we building some sort of a structure for a snowplow?
We have looked at the possibility of utilizing the building in a number of ways. Is Joe Baines here? Tyler, could you see if you can get Joe back over here? Because he's met with multiple departments about if the desire of council was to buy this building, what would be the best use?
Yeah, because that's a 15,000 square feet.
It's a large building.
That's a pretty massive structure for 175,000.
That would be the half price. And, yeah.
Well, while we're waiting, I just want to thank you for coming down here and working with us. And these things happen, and hopefully we can come to a resolution and you can get on with your school.
Thank you.
And so thank you for being so, pleasant.
I've tried.
Councilman Moore.
Yeah, thank you. I just do have a question about the other building that you're now going to build. I assume that you've talked with the city and it's going to be an appropriate height and location that's not going to conflict with the airport
I'm
issues.
sure we'll have to meet all that. We are just thinking that's an alternative.
Okay.
We have not proposed any
Okay.
plans. We're on that.
Okay.
It's not in the
No.
zone that is problematic.
It's in impact zone 3 instead of 2, is that correct? The parking lot, so chances of your being hit by a plane there go down a little bit.
And I see our airport director is here. I don't know if she has any comments that she'd like to make. And help out with the conversation?
Not recognized.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Councilman Montoya.
Sorry, Robin, just real quick. I just want to make sure I understand the terms of what we're talking about, so I'm clear. Doing the math, and I may be off a little bit here, but you're seeking $427,000 approximately in financial compensation, some parking over by the Peavine Trailhead that's near your location, and then an easement from the city
On the fire lane.
on the fire line.
The city moving the fire lane.
Okay, and
It
it-
would be on their property, so,
Okay, and so is that the sum total of what the?
yes.
Okay, I just sorry for.
No, I think that's important for us to have our arms around. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Go ahead.
I'll give you the update from. Joe Baines is nowhere near the building, but he did give me an update at least. So he has been talking with staff, particularly police and fire. And there's a potential to use the building. It wouldn't be exactly ideal because of some interior beams, but the city could still potentially have some use for a co-location of police, fire, and even the building is large enough that they could use some storage for recreation services. And he has city-owned land on Commerce Drive that would accommodate the building size.
And there was also discussion of the clerk having some storage space as well.
Yeah, I don't know how much you want me to get into that, Michael, but with, looking at the sale of this facility, there are a number of records that are not currently housed at our record center that will need to be combined with our current record center. And so I've been speaking with Joe and PD and Fire as well on the opportunity to kind of utilize, if it makes sense, that space for a variety of purposes, which would include some record storage, and that would fit in nicely with evidence storage, which...
Is in need of the police department.
Yeah, Brembilla mentioned that they needed, so...
Mayor Pro Tem.
I was just asking to see if maybe our airport director had any comments about this subject.
Thank you very much. I'm so appreciative of the fact that you understand that this impact zone obviously has implications associated with safety, and I know it's been a hardship on you, and you've worked with us, and we're so appreciative of that support. First, we'll do everything to support you as you go forward that we possibly can. I haven't seen the latest location, but every other one we evaluated appeared to be acceptable, so we'll work with you, of course, and making sure that, the safety is the number one issue here, and of course, you want the children to be safe, and so do we. So thank you for everything that you've done.
Well, thank you. Hey, I had a question. The airport person. My mind is always going on politics. But I know that the airport is going to be extending the long runway further. Is
Yes.
that correct?
Well, it is a proposal. It has to go through environmental design and, of course, be funded.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, no proposal. But the airport runway that would affect my school area
Crosswind.
is the cross one, the short one.
That's correct.
Which also makes the bubble of the impact zone and the overlay zone too, at this end where most of the residential and problems lie. If, when that is extended, if that short runway were moved to the other end, the bubble would be where there isn't so much residential. I don't know, just thinking. I'm just,
It's your. Do you want me to speak?
You can comment on that, but it's not a Lego set.
What's kind of interesting is the people at the other end want it to slide toward you.
Oh, okay.
And actually, that was proposed this week. Just a couple
Too late.
clarifications. One is you don't go to the FAA and ask them to extend runway and shorten the other one. That usually doesn't work. Second, a lot of people don't realize this, but when Boutique came in and was offering twice daily service to Phoenix, the crosswind runway was actually a commercial service runway at that time. And so as a result, we wouldn't want to make it any shorter because when you have crosswinds 18% of the time, they're more challenged by wind conditions. So when you use the crosswind runway, obviously for the smaller aircraft, we would want to retain that for commercial service operations for those like 9-seat aircraft. And that's what the plan is, obviously, for the future. So there's nothing on our airport layout plan to change the length of that runway, but it was really a creative idea. But just as soon as we get the plans on the other proposed area, we'll be just right on it, because we are here to do everything we can to support you. Thank you for this.
Oh, well, thank you. So,
All right, any more? Let's see. Councilman Moore.
Sorry.
Mayor Pro Tem, are you done?
I would just like to say that it seems to me time is of the essence. This lady's been inconvenienced for quite a period, and I think we should come to a resolution here pretty soon. Thank you.
I think at this point, we probably need to adjourn into executive session to discuss our options.
I just wanted to, just did a quick math here, so don't hold me to it. But if the city does buy the building, then the compensation to me would be closer to $250,000.
Oh, okay.
So just,
That's very helpful. Thank you.
That's over and above the full price of the building?
that takes the full price of the building out of the equation.
So the total would be
Would still be the,
$650.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But I'm saying, if you get the building, that's like another purchase that you're not having to
Yeah.
give me the money and I have to, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that it?
I think that's it until we have a chance to discuss this.
You need a motion.
I think I do need a motion to adjourn and go into executive session.
Mayor, I move to adjourn this meeting and go into executive session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So how do we do this?
We would, if you
Go ahead,
wanted, oh, sorry. If you wanted to stay in this room, you can do that. It's up to how you want to run the meeting, in which case you'd clear the room and just keep going forward with the meeting.
I think that's what we should do.
Okay, I'm also going to cease the broadcast, so I need maybe 3 minutes.
Okay.
Great.
That'll give us time.
Yeah, you'll have to